Chocobar Kids.
Subscribe to watch more videos.
Switch and bulb. Once there was a beautiful city. Many people were living in that city. But that city did not have power supply. There lived an old scientist in that city. He was determined to provide electricity to his city, so he was doing various experiments. One day, while he was doing some experiments, he was able to find a way to get electricity. The scientist was so happy to find the way to generate current. There came few youngsters from the city to meet the scientist. They asked, "What is the matter, sir? Did something good happen? You look so happy." The scientist said, "I have found a way to generate current for our city." The youngsters were surprised to hear the news. The scientist said, "Soon I will be able to provide current to the entire city. Say this good news to all others in the city." The youngsters happily went to spread the news to the people. The scientist succeeded in his plan and supplied current to the entire city. After a few years, the people of that city started to waste current unnecessarily. On hearing about the news, the scientist came to talk to the people of that city. The scientist went to them and said, "Don't waste current." Few youngsters replied, "What if we use it more? Is it going to be empty?" The scientist was so much worried on hearing it. Another youngster said, "You just mind your own business." Scientist angrily said, "Okay, I will look after my business." He angrily went from there. A little boy from the crowd asked the youngsters, "Why are you speaking impolitely to the scientist who provided current to the entire city?" The youngsters said, "You are a little boy. You couldn't understand the situation. Go from here." The scientist came to his lab and switched off the current supply to the city. The entire city lost its power supply. There was power cut even in the place where people gathered. People were confused as to what was happening. The youngsters said, "This may be because of the scientist. He would have stopped the power supply to our city." The little boy said, "This happened because of your impolite behavior towards the scientist." One of the youngsters asked, "What shall we do now?" People said, "You must go to the scientist and apologize to him and then ask him to supply current again." Another youngster said, "Okay, we will do as you said." They went from there to meet the scientist. The youngsters went to the scientist's lab. When they entered inside, they unknowingly stamped on the buttons there and were confronted by the shock waves. After crossing the dangerous pathway, the youngsters knocked on the door. The scientist opened the door and was shocked to see the youngsters being confronted by the shock waves. The youngsters asked, "Why did you stop the power supply to our city? Switch on the supply now." The scientist said, "No, I will not supply current to your place." The youngsters said, "Oh, is it? Then we shall on the switch by ourselves." They went to the transformer and tried to switch on the power. But again they were caught up by the shock waves. The scientist saved the youngsters and said, "I cannot supply current to your place, so go from here." The youngsters sadly went from the lab. The people in the city started to talk about the delay in the power supply. The little boy asked, "Why didn't we get power supply yet?" The people there said, "Scientists said that he will not provide current to our place." The little boy said, "I will go and ask him to provide current, but one condition, no one should waste current unnecessarily." The people said, "Okay, we will not waste current." The boy said okay, and then he went to meet the scientist. After the boy left, the people there took all the sound systems and other electronic gadgets and locked up in a room. The little boy went to the scientist's lab. He asked, "Scientist, please switch on the power supply to us." The scientist angrily said, "No, I will not go from here." The little boy said, "I apologize on behalf of other people in the city." The scientist was so touched because the boy talked to him so politely. He said, "I will accept to switch on the power supply, but I will keep a test. Only if you pass the test, I will provide current to the city." The little boy accepted for the test, so he was taken to a room in the lab. The boy was looking in wonder. The scientist said, "Come in. There are 3 switches in this room and 3 bulbs in the other room. You must match the correct switches to those bulbs." The boy switched on the first switch. Then he switched on and off the second switch. He went to the next room and said, "The bulb which glows is connected with the first switch. The bulb which is heated up is connected with the second switch. The other bulb is connected with the third switch." The scientist appreciated the cleverness of the boy. Since the little boy found the correct answer, the scientist decided to switch on the power supply to the city. He then provided current to city. The people were very happy to receive current. So kids, you must always be polite to others. Bye-bye kids.
Subscribe to watch more videos.